Can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. Well, it's about that time, so I would like to welcome everybody to the September the 7th, 2021 council meeting. Note there will be an opportunity during the meeting for citizens to address the town council when the mayor declares public comments open. We request that anyone addressing the council sign up and approach the podium when called, state your first and last name, and provide your complete mailing address. Again, welcome everybody. It's nice to see a kind of a full house, or at least a half a house tonight. With all that being said, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Present.
Ms. Gillian?
Here.
Ms. Quetch?
Here.
And Mayor Webb?
Here. At this time, we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and if Miss Amanda Pillion would lead us.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Pillion. And at this time, we'd like to ask Minister Floyd Bailey to come up and lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Honorable Council. Will we all bow our heads? Our holy God and Father, we come before you tonight, praising you as our God, as the giver of every good and perfect gift. We know, Father, that you are our Creator and that you possess all things. We thank you, Father, that we are so blessed. We live in our wonderful country in which we are able to conduct business in this fashion. We are so very thankful for these council members which have been elected, and we ask you, Father, for their health and their wisdom, that they would continue to do the job that has been appointed to them. We ask you to bless them and help them to be appreciated for the gift that they provide of service to our community. Father, we are very thankful for our world, and we're thankful for all of the ways that you have blessed it. And yet, in the struggle of our time, we find the weight and the burden of sorrow and sadness to be quite heavy. And we ask you, dear Father, as we bear the weight of this pandemic and bear the weight of the stress that it has created and the world unrest that has seemed to grow, and for the tragedies of weather that we have experienced in recent days, Father, that you would bless us and keep us and guard us, that you would comfort our hearts, and that you would help us to look to you for strength and comfort, knowing that you are fully aware and that you walk with us, yea, even through the valley of the shadow of death. And we ask you, dear Father, that you would be with this council tonight and the decisions that they make. We ask that you be with each person that's here. We pray that all the decisions that are made will be that which is just for our community, that which is right, and that it would do the best for everyone involved as much as it is possible. And we ask you, Father, to help us to always remember the greatest gift of love bestowed upon mankind in the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross, washing us in his blood and cleansing us of our sins. It is in his name that we pray this prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Floyd, for that beautiful prayer. All right, that brings us to the approval of the agenda. Council, if there are no changes to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to go ahead and approve the agenda as it is.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as it is.
Motion by Mr. Owens to approve the agenda as it is. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gillian?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. All right. That brings us to public comments. And again, we have a sign-up sheet that we provided, and I just wanted to remind everybody, we do have quite a few signed up, that there is a 3-minute time limit per person. First up, we've got Mr. Eric McReynolds. He'll approach the council.
Good evening, Avenue Town Councilor, Mayor Webb.
My name is Eric McReynolds, 20311 Woodhouse Lane, Wallace area, Bristol, Virginia. The reason I'm here tonight, I represent the American History Preservation concerning the statue. We've got it down into 3 phases. To my left, I have the Washington County Board, which we've now, obviously they're going to vote to move it due to space, which is fine. And then to gain the monies, it's going to be moved all the way with Washington County money. And down here, the third part, because we're the centers where I'm asking help. And the third part is the Veterans Park Board, which they've been more than kind enough to have us as associate members. We don't get to vote, but they let us sit in and participate, which you greatly appreciate. We found a space for it. We've looked for water under the ground, electrical and all that. There is a space there. So the reason I'm here tonight is dig a hole. We're asking your permission to dig in Abington soil. Some of our members are retired engineers. It is their opinion. It'll be about a 25 by 25 hole. We're now getting in touch with backhoe companies to assist the Washington County on cost so we can limit the cost and to come up with a plan, which is in progress. So with that said, again, we're asking to dig in the soil. We do understand it's a joint effort of finances between the town of Abington and Washington County Board. We're really here just to preserve American history. We really want that statue to be preserved for the next generation. And that's what it comes down to. We're asking to dig a hole. We've been working on it for about a time limit. Where's it at?
You got about 50 seconds.
Okay. We've been working on it about 6 months. We got the vote, Washington County, you're gonna have to move it. And then we got the money to move it. That's we, the team. And Veterans Park Board is, from the last 2 meetings, we went and voted, and they seem to be all on board. Well, they are. So we really need permission, because come November 15th through December 15th, there's going to be a public hearing to move that statue and do the paperwork we received of the construction company requesting for the valuable space to expand the courthouse, which we support. And that's it, Mayor. One last thing, take a few seconds. It's an ideal. September 15th, 05:30, we're asking Abington legal team to meet with the Veterans Park Board at the government building, September 15th at 5:30. Sorry to extend.
Thank you, Mr. McReynolds.
All right, thank you.
All right, that brings up Monty Vernon.
Am I the legal team? Yes, you are.
Task Force.
Take that off. I can't hear myself talk hardly when I have that on. Mayor Webb, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Monty Vernon. I live at 20246 Erie Trail, Abington, and I am the former Public Works Director of the town from 1979 to 2007. But before I say anything else, Donna, I just want to express to you, and this is my condolences on the loss of your yet another thoughts and prayers for all. My concern is on the privatization of the wastewater treatment plant. And you all have already received some information before from Mike Maiden, who was the chief operator of the plant during the years that I was here, and from your former Public Works Director, John Dew. I think you got a memo from him as well. And I know Mike at least encouraged you to speak with some other people that had some experience along these lines, and I know that some of you have done that. I've done that, and it's very educational to speak with those other folks. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, I would urge you to do that before completion of this process. My personal experience with privatization was in the 1990s in the solid waste department of the town, where we contracted out the solid waste collection. And as would happen, what happens so often in those types of things, the cost increased year by year to where it got exorbitant. And so in April of 1999, when their contract came up for renewal, the Public Works Department bid on it. And we got the low bid. We changed to automated solid waste collection, and you have the rollout cart system that you have now. That's just the type of experience that others that have seen in this. And one of the things that I've tried to figure out is what is the driving force on this? Why has this question even come up at this point in time? Is it a issue with operations? Is it an issue with personnel? What is it? If it's I hardly see it being operations because your plant has such an excellent history of treatment, and your chief operator has, sure you all know that she's received a state award for her excellence in operation over many years. If it's not that, is it a personnel issue? If it is, I would just encourage dealing with whatever the things are rather than going lock, stock, and barrel into a system where you have to pay someone from out of town to manage your facilities, which are excellent facilities. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So, okay. Thank you.
And next we have Mr. Jimmy Smith.
Mayor Webb, Town Council members. I'm here to speak also to the contract operator for the wastewater operation system. And I really don't know, why that you want to turn the management over to the town's wastewater system over to a private company. It's kind of hard for me to understand. I am Jimmy Smith, 448 Brook Hill Drive. I live in Abingdon, sorry. I am a former town engineer and director of wastewater operations for the town of Abingdon, and I retired from here in 2014. I think the town has a near flawless and perhaps pristine compliance record. I think that you have a very good and a highly qualified staff, and I've heard it said in regard to the sewer system, and I quote, "The town of Abingdon is a beacon of light in Southwest Virginia area," end quote. In addition, I think the sewer rates are reasonable. I think that turning the town's management of the wastewater operations over to a private company is a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't say bad, but I don't agree with it, let's put it that way. As a publicly owned system, it operates on a break-even basis, whereas the private company would be here to make at least 15% profit. So something has to change. What are those changes? Do you cut wages, cut staff? If you do, that means job losses for the community. You cut employee benefits, you cut maintenance, and at the end of the day, any of the system that fails, the town has to pay for it anyway if the system fails in any way. The company may tell you that they would be more efficient. Usually, efficient means the reason or is because of the reasons I stated above, but in my opinion, being more efficient usually is a result of competition. So where there is competition, you have more efficiency. In this particular case, the only competition that is here is the competition for the contract, not after the contract is awarded. The 15% profit has to come from somewhere. So in effect, where is it going to come from, and how is that going to affect my bill? I want to know what the effect on my sewer bill would be. Is it going to result in higher rates? If so, how much? I understand that when I have talked to consultants, some of the problems that they have experienced with their clients is that backups and other problems are usually take longer because of the response time, because of the staff reduction and things like that. Repairs take longer. The company is going to be primarily accountable to their owners, and therefore there's less accountability to the people that they serve. I understand that the private company can restrict public access to information. Therefore, the same level of openness to the public would not be there.
Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up. I'm sorry.
Okay, the contract monitoring and administration can also be an expense and time-consuming to other town employees. The unplanned work result in change orders and cost overruns, which can really inflate the price. Have other points, but I do thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Richard Morgan.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Richard Morgan. I live at 171 Valley Street here in Abington. I'm here as an interested citizen of Washington County because I'm interested in the history of the Confederate monument, which must be removed for the new courthouse facilities. Old newspapers for this area reveal that it started with the Confederate veterans trying to raise money in 1905. And they were joined by the Daughters of the Confederacy, who also raised money throughout the community. And they raised together $1,000, a lot at that time. The Board of Supervisors contributed another $2,000, and the state legislature also approved another $1,000. Thus, they had $4,000, for which they went out and hired a very prominent sculptor, William Severs. The statue was erected in the middle of the street, in the middle of Main Street in front of the courthouse in 1907. And it was dedicated on June the 3rd, 1908, with a crowd of some 500 people that came to hear. In his address dedicating the statue, Judge John Buchanan honored the common foot soldier. He wasn't interested in the leaders. He was interested in the common foot soldier that the statue was to represent. And he said, the newspapers of the county, in stating who were to be the principal speakers of today, omitted the most important one. The orator for the occasion is the monument itself. The foot soldier should speak for himself. In referring to the figure that the statue represents, Judge Buchanan said, that ragged and tattered uniform tells of limbs chilled by the cold, and of the unshod and bleeding feet as he marched and fought to guard the homes of the poverty and want, where children at home begged for food. Judge Buchanan had a right to speak for the common soldier. The judge was a private in the Virginia Stonewall Brigade. He fought at Gettysburg. He was taken prisoner, and he served as a prisoner of war for 2 years. He understood who the statue was for. It was for the common person. I hope the town council will work with the supervisors, and I hope that it is moved to Veterans Park here in Abington. I thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Miss Beth Smith.
Good evening. I'm Beth Smith, and I live at 474 Court Street, Abington. I'm here to complete the previous remarks about the Veterans statue. In his closing remarks at the 1908 dedication, Judge Buchanan said, and I quote, "To the young men and maidens gathered here today, to this generation, it calls you to cherish and emulate the virtues of the men and women of that day, to follow their example and serve your country in peace as they served it in war, and to hand down to coming generations unimpaired the rights and liberties inherited by you." End quote. It also should be noted that the back side of the statue shows the form of a woman in bronze with the inscriptions, "Our mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters," a dedication to the family members of the common soldier who also suffered and sacrificed. It is our hope that the town and county leaders will agree upon an appropriate location for this statue that will honor all our veterans. Move it to Veterans Park. The question is frequently asked, when was the statue moved from the middle of Main Street? Answer, 1936. It took the town 27 years to recognize that the Model T Ford was no match for an unmovable statue with a stone solid base. Thank you.
And that concludes the public comments section. Next up, we have the approval of minutes. Council, if we don't have any changes to the August the 2nd or August 17th meeting minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve both at the same time.
I'll make your motion.
Motion by Mr. Anderson to approve both sets of minutes at the same time. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Rhodes?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Wood?
Aye. And that brings us to proclamations, the first of which we have a proclamation recognizing September the 17th through the 23rd, 2021 as Constitution Week. And I think Vice Mayor Quetch is going to read that for us.
Yes, proclamation recognizing September 17th through 23rd, 2021 as Constitution Week. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas it is the privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September the 17th through September the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, by virtue of the authority invested in Mayor, and on behalf of the Abington Town Council and citizens, I hereby proclaim September the 17th through September the 23rd as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on having privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And Ms. Thurman, did you have some words you'd like to say, or?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for supporting us in this endeavor. We like to do this every year with Janet.
Sure.
I wanted to have this opportunity to introduce our new regent for the Blacksburg chapter. Her name is Beth Henningsen, and I wanted to let you know her. Some of you may know her, but she's acted in very many historical events, so I just wanted you to meet Beth, and she's our new regent. We appreciate you doing this for us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and I think we have something we'd like to give you. We can't forget the photos now. Come on now. Thank you all again for coming. Calm down, Mr. Anderson.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we do have a second proclamation that I would like to read myself, if that's okay. I have to say, in my time as service as the mayor, there's not a single employee I've enjoyed seeing more than Miss Pat Brown. She's always smiling, even behind the mask, I can tell. And this proclamation is a proclamation honoring and recognizing Pat Brown upon her retirement as a Town of Abingdon employee. She will be missed, absolutely, so make sure to visit often. And here is the proclamation. Whereas Pat Brown served the Town of Abingdon in its Public Works Street Department from August 1999 until her retirement on August 31st, 2021, serving as administrative assistant during her career. And whereas Pat will retire from her duties with over 22 years of dedicated service to the Town of Abingdon. And whereas Pat was honored as the town's 2010 Employee of the Year. And whereas Pat's hard work, dedication, and institutional knowledge will be missed by the Town of Abingdon as she begins her well-deserved retirement. Whereas the Town Council recognizes her contributions and acknowledges her value as an employee of the Town of Abingdon, now therefore be it resolved by the Council for the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, 5 of its members concurring, that the Town Council recognizes Ms. Pat Brown for her dedicated service to the town during her 22 years with the Public Works Street Department, and that the Town Council officially thanks Pat Brown for her betterment of the town and its citizens, and the Town Council wishes Pat Brown well in all that she may choose to do in her retirement on this 7th day of September 2021. Signed, Derek Webb, Mayor. And Pat, like I said, there's not a single employee I've enjoyed getting to know more than you, and we certainly will miss you. But please do visit often, and we have a small token of appreciation if you'd like to come up. And of course, photos. Congratulations.
Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie, come on, you can't get out of this now.
And maybe your
try.
husband.
Well, should we have Monty up here?
Come on up. Thank you again, Pat. We're so very proud of you.
Oh, do you want to do it again?
Yeah, let's do it with the mask off, huh?
Take 2.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Very good.
Thank you again, Pat. All right, and that concludes the proclamations. That brings us to public hearings, of which we have a few tonight. First public hearing, and I don't think, Kim, we didn't have anybody signed up for public hearings, did we, specifically? Okay. So we'll kind of run through these, and then we'll explain some of them a little bit further in the meeting, if that's okay. The first public hearing we have is a proposed boundary
Why don't
adjustment.
you, Mayor, since there are no speakers, why don't you just read them all off and we can do it all at once,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, sure, we can do that, absolutely. The first 4, you mean, or all 5?
Yeah, just do, well, you could do all 5 if you want.
Okay, all right, we'll do all 5. So we're gonna group these all together in one public hearing, since we don't have anybody signed up. First one is a proposed boundary adjustment by John R. and Nina C. White to the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, located near Old South Way, tax map number 127A-18A, consisting of .034 acres more or less. Number 2 is a proposed boundary adjustment by Town of Abingdon, Virginia, to John R. and Nina C. White, located near Old South Way, tax map number 127A-18C, consisting of .027 acres more or less. Then we have number 3, which is a proposed right-of-way dedication by Town of Abingdon, Virginia, to Washington County, Virginia, located near Old South Way, tax map number 127-A-10B, consisting of .24 acres and tax map number 127A18C consisting of .427 acres more or less. And number 4 is a proposed right-of-way dedication by the town of Abingdon, Virginia and the town of Damascus, Virginia to Washington County, Virginia consisting of .187 acres more or less. And then last but not least, not related in any way, we have a public hearing of a lease between the town and David Millsap doing business as Millsap Farms for the property located at Harmony Hills Lane, tax map number 086-12-5, consisting of 24.185 acres more or less. Having read all 5 of those, I would open the public hearing and ask if there was anyone that wanted to speak. And since no one has come forward, we'll close the public hearing and we'll explain all of those items a little bit later on. That brings us to resolutions, of which we have 3. The first one is a resolution supporting VDOT Transportation Alternative Program for Boone Street Pedestrian Improvements Project. Mr. Mike Surratt, welcome to the hot seat.
Mr. Mayor, council members, come for you to ask for a resolution of support for a transportation alternatives program application through the Virginia Department of Transportation for a Boone Street pedestrian project. The application is due October the 1st, and it will require a resolution of support from the locality and from the MPO, and we also have a request in from them. And any questions?
So basically, this is just a formality of.
It is a formality. The application does require a resolution of support from the local government.
Okay.
I'm very pleased. This is something I spoke to John Dew about, and
Yes, ma'am.
I have children who run cross country, and I've had a lot of parents come to me and say, why don't we have sidewalks near the high school? My kids want to walk, and I don't feel like it's
Yes,
safe.
ma'am.
So I think this is wonderful.
Keep in mind, this will connect Main Street to
Walden Road. So it really is gonna connect the pedestrian
Yeah.
and the residential areas with the business district also.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I also want to draw attention, and some of you might already know this, but once you get past, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, when you get past to the east on Boone, it's actually not town property.
Correct.
So
Once you leave Boone Street, it turns into Thompson Drive. That is really,
Yeah.
that's county property.
It's
school
actually,
property.
yeah, for whatever reason, there's a gap
Yes.
there, so we're actually putting sidewalk on all the areas that the
Yeah.
town owns and controls.
Yep.
Anything further to the east would have to involve the school or the county. But,
Yes.
yeah, good project.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it would just require action from the town council, Mr. Mayor, and
Okay.
then I can get it in the application and get it submitted.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, council, at this time, I guess we can take action if so desired.
I make a motion that we support the resolution.
All right, motion by Mr. Owens to support this resolution, and allow Mike to get that paperwork done. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Do we have any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Billion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. That brings us to number 2, resolution approving Virginia Clean Water Financing and Assistance Program, Southwest Virginia's pilot program. Mr. Benson.
Good evening, Mr. Webb, council. So this is a resolution of support for $100,000 to complete phase 2 of an SSES study. So the town did a system-wide study for inflow and infiltration. And from that, we came up with 7 different sewer sheds. DEQ created a pilot program for Southwest Virginia only. So they have a pot of money that they are trying to utilize to identify I&I in our region and then allow for construction projects and rehab work to come from those studies. Phase 1 was completed last year. We studied the top 4 in those sewer sheds. We'd like to study the remaining 3. That's what this will support. It will complete the study of the sewer sheds from our system-wide study, and it will set us up for funding. It is a 75-25 match, 75 by DEQ, 25 by the town. Last time around, we were able to get our 25% match from Mount Rogers Planning District. We also anticipate to do that with this one as well.
do we expect this to cost the whole $100,000?
Yes.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Council, do we have any questions for Mr. Vinsel about this particular?
Is this just for the study, not the construction?
Correct. So you've already resolved to do the construction funds from the study, from phase one of the study. This would be phase, it's like step one, but a second step one, if that makes sense. The first round, we'll call it 2020 round, went through the study and it's in its construction phase. This is a 2021 study to finish out the sewer sheds that were identified in the original system-wide report in 2019.
Is this want to take care, you believe, and we'll have a plan for the overflows?
Like, could you be specific as to
Yeah.
where, like we're expanding on the study, I guess
Yeah.
that's what you was.
Okay, the original study was Walden Road, East Main Street, Lowry Drive.
Lowry, yeah.
And Exit 19.
Okay, that's right, because there was a separate study for exit 19
This
for
takes,
the
this takes
capacity
into
study.
account, I
Okay.
think, some more of East Main, our older systems. I think there's 2 sewer sheds within our older system. And
So new areas that we're studying,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
more in-depth areas of
yeah,
areas.
areas that
Okay.
were identified previously in a study done by CHA that was a system-wide study to kind of broadly look at I&I where we had problems. They identified 7 target watersheds. The first study, 100,000, wasn't enough to complete the full. Like, this is a more focused study to identify exactly where we need to fix our issues.
Okay.
So that's what happened the first time around. The pilot program with DEQ was to establish an SSES, which is a sewer system evaluation study. We looked at 4 sewer sheds that the report identified the areas of concern that we needed to repair. Then we went through into phase 2 of applying for construction 50/50 funds with DEQ. They also said we'd like to reopen phase 1 again if anybody wants to get back in to do another study. And we said, okay, well, we'd like to complete our priority watersheds. So that's what we've applied to do.
And the priority, is it Town Creek?
Mostly Town Creek, yes.
Okay.
What's the difference between a watershed and a sewer shed?
Same. I mean, just, I guess, depends on where you've got the sewer lines, I would say, but typically we put sewer where water flows. So they tend to fall in the same category, but where our system is.
So this would be more smoke tests and camera tests to look for problems, and then the next phase would be what Tyler's saying we're doing on phase 1 is actually putting in pipe and replacing and moving things. So this would be, the second investigation stage of the other sewer sheds that we've not investigated yet. So ultimately towards fixing the problem, but this $100,000 isn't gonna fix the problem, it's gonna find the problem.
And I mean, this is probably a good place to throw this in there, but I think we revealed through that last 4 watershed, sewer shed study that there were lots of upgrades that need to be.
I mean, there are definitely some problem areas. I mean, we've got a really old system in some places, but I think overall our system is, I mean, it shows its age in places, but a lot of our fixes that were indicated in that study are because of the age of the system. We have terracotta lines. We have and so we've indicated some ways to not. They're going to do pipe bursting and slip lining certain sections, and as far as digging down and replacing, we're trying to limit the amount of impact that we have on the town's, our working function. Like, we don't want to dig up a street. We're going to try to use some non-invasive techniques to fix our issues, but a lot of it is, just the age of the system. And manholes, that's another thing.
So I assume we expect for these other 3 sewer collections, basins, watersheds, whatever you want to call them, we expect there will be more.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. No
infrastructure
system is perfect, so
issues
you're
that-
gonna find, you're always gonna find something, but, but we targeted the top 4 from the original report, and so I think you'll find less in this.
Okay.
But you'll find
Still
something,
find
yeah.
something. Okay.
So will this also benefit our wastewater problems?
Yeah, so,
So
and,
it's gonna contribute to it heavily, huh?
well, there's 2 different, I mean, I don't really wanna go into it in depth, I guess, but, there's 2 different ways that water stormwater enters the sanitary sewer system. One is inflow, direct inflow from like a manhole lid
Right,
or
right.
from, and then there's infiltration where the water table is above our sewer system and there are leaks, cracks, roots get in, there's separation of joints, there's, brick manholes that the mortar is, is no longer there. So water gets in that fashion too. So when we have rain events and high water like we've had over the last 3 years, we will see that at the plant. This is an attempt to tighten that system up so that we don't get as much rainwater we're not treating rainwater.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great explanation, by the way. Yeah, very good. Council, do we have any other questions? No, I mean, really, it's good. I thought it was great. Nice job, Tyler.
Thank you.
Any other questions,
Some
council? before Tyler?
illustrations would have been nice. but-
I tried, John wouldn't let me put them in there.
Come on, man, come on. Well, if we don't have any other questions for him, particularly about this one, then I would, Tyler.
And I'll
thank
say,
you for
yeah,
your-
this sets us up to apply for the
for
funding, so,
money
yeah.
for- Gotcha. So if there's no other questions of Tyler at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution to give us the leverage for this $100,000.
I'll make some motion.
Motion by Mr. Anderson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Thank you, Tyler. The third resolution we're going to entertain tonight is a resolution appointing Coordinator of Emergency Management. Chief Holbrook, where are you?
Mayor, members of the council. Part of the Code of Virginia, section 44-146-19, requires that each political subdivision establish an emergency management coordinator. And the purpose for the town, it says that the coordinator shall be appointed by the council of any town to ensure integration of its organization into the county emergency management operations. Basically, so that we operate with Washington County should a natural or man-made disaster occur. And I task you all with making the appointment to that position.
Yeah, previously we had designated the chief of police to take over that role. When Chief Holbrook made the transition into that position, it was overlooked that we didn't actually, he'd been serving in this capacity since then,
Correct.
without the compensation, which is zero, so. You get the title.
Volunteer work.
I was going to say, I
No.
feel like I've heard this before a couple of years
Yeah,
back.
we
Yes.
did it by, the council did that. I believe it was done, I think that was a cleanup too, because we hadn't properly identified, or it had been a while since we identified Chief Sullivan, so this is really what this is.
Just going
Just a
back.
formality,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we technically don't have a coordinator, so to speak, now.
He's acting
other than
coordinator, that is
acting,
the
I
chief of
suppose,
police,
yes.
Right,
yeah.
but hopefully we're going to have one in just a second, officially.
He has been acting in that
Oh, so
capacity.
you will be the coordinator, is what we're.
If you all appoint,
Yeah.
Yes.
based on your wish.
He's lobbying heavily for
That's
the
it,
appointment.
right? All right,
Right,
well, that being said, I would entertain a motion to,
You're hired.
I don't believe anybody else stepped forward.
yeah, I don't.
No,
hear
I mean,
anybody
it
else
made
asking
sense,
for
it makes sense because the position deals with emergency medical services in
Right.
the county and the operations, it just,
Sure.
yeah.
So let's make this thing official.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Quetch to appoint Chief Holbrook as the Coordinator of Emergency Management. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Congratulations, Chief.
Hopefully, he'll just be in this position for another 20 years and we won't have to do this until then.
That's it, right? All right. That brings us to first reading of ordinances. We have none. We don't have any second readings. Don't have any consideration of bids or new business that I know of, but we do have old business. And this is where Tyler is going to explain what we just had public hearings about. So the first one is the approval of a plat for proposed boundary adjustment by John R. and Nina C. White to the town of Abingdon, Virginia, located near Old South Way, tax map number 127A18A, consisting of .034 acres more or less, and proposed boundary adjustment by town of Abingdon, Virginia to John R. and Nina C. White, located near Old South Way, tax map number 127A18C, consisting of .027 acres more or less. Tyler, what's that mean?
Okay. Brief history. The town performed a VDOT project to construct a road and a new parking lot at Watauga, just beyond the Watauga Trestle. You know the one, it's the gravel lot that's, you know, taking your life into your hand if you park there. So the town applied for and constructed, again with VDOT assistance to construct that parking lot and the access to it. At the time that happened, there was a commitment to dedicate the road as right-of-way. So this is I guess the seeing through of that. Once the road was constructed, it was surveyed, and we talked to VDOT, and we got it narrowed down to a 40-foot right-of-way. That's what they would accept in terms of bringing the road into their system of maintenance, and this is obviously going into a potential subdivision property. So the first is a boundary adjustment because of the way that the road was oriented and the 40-foot right-of-way. It left a couple of remnants on either side that are undevelopable pieces of property. So we cleaned that up with our boundary adjustment between us and Mr. White. And then second, once that cleanup happens with the boundary adjustment, that 40-foot right-of-way is dedicated to Washington County, and it's in three different phases you see there. Two of the dedications are solely town-owned property, and then the third one is the joint-owned town of Abingdon and town of Damascus creeper right-of-way.
A little bit less brief of a history. As part of that project, the town had a public hearing, and it obtained property from the Whites and others at the time. There were plans then to extend the road from the property we had bought to Watauga Road. In the process of the project itself, we had to put in, we've talked about this before, whether it's technically a retention pond or a detention pond. Tyler thinks it's technically a detention pond, although it doesn't detain stuff for very long, as I recall.
It does not retain a permanent pool, so it is a detention facility.
There we go.
Detention facility.
Detention facility. It was in the way of the road, so the road had to be moved. In part of moving the road, and as Tyler said, we were very cognizant of trying to limit the impact on the creeper trail itself, of encroaching the road and the right-of-way onto the creeper trail. So we worked with VDOT and the Whites and the county and other people too, probably, to try to accomplish that. So to clean all of that up, of what had started, this process started 10 years ago, 11 years ago maybe. We're swapping property is the gist of it on this boundary adjustment. And then Tyler jumped the gun a little bit on the second one, but we'll do that one too.
Okay, sorry.
So this is the property we're adjusting?
Yes.
that and that.
Mhm. We're just, they had property on one side that didn't make sense for it to still be on their side, so we flopped it with property that we have on.
We didn't
on
want
our
to
side.
dedicate more than a 40-foot right-of-way, and so when we drew the right-of-way centered on the road, it left small remnants on either side. So it's just cleaning that up between the two property owners.
So, Mr. Mayor, just for the sake of clarity, although I'm not sure how clear all that can be made, but this is just the vote on the boundary line adjustments of
Sure.
those two parcels first.
Sure, okay. So, does everybody understand that? I mean, I know this has been a lengthy process, and I am personally glad to have it resolving, because it has been a very lengthy process. And again, I think the take-home point is these are things that were promised before this council was seated. And this council, of course, said, we want to commit to whatever was promised and all that fun stuff, and not go back on our word. So this is truly just cleaning all that up. We're not giving the creeper trail away or anything crazy like that. We're just cleaning this road up and all that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Fair enough, down and dirty? Okay. So with that being said, council, I guess we need a motion to approve this plat for boundary adjustment.
I'll make that motion.
So motion by Mr. Owens, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Gillian?
Aye.
Ms. Quett?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Good, feels good to have that one done. So number 2, Cam, if you want to jump in with Tyler and explain that one.
Sure. Tyler basically already explained it. This second part is just the right-of-way itself. Parts of the property are owned jointly between the town of Abingdon and the town of Damascus. We got what the railroad had, and at this location, remember, we did some research into finding out, contrary to public opinion, not the entire length from Abingdon to the river is owned completely by the towns. There's some parts that are still easements, so we had to investigate that. And it turns out that we do own that property in fee simple, as they would say. So this would be dedicating, as part of the ultimate process to get access to Watauga Road, our portion of dedicating the right-of-way of our property, and then Damascus will also have to vote similarly.
Tyler, anything else you want to add?
I will say that I have applied for a VDOT land use permit to essentially restripe that entrance and extend a pipe on the other side of the road and relocate the trail access into a safer location as you cross the road. So while we still own it, I've already applied for that.
I will
VDOT
admit that was good work. He did a good job.
And VDOT is
making
in
it
support
safer.
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try to deal with that crossing safety issue and the parking lot issue on the other side. Now, we retain some parking on that side, but we're also gonna separate bike and pedestrian traffic from the parking area with, like the rail that's on Ivy Street, like that we did out there. It's something similar to that, to try to make that safer, for people, for trail users.
And if I understand you correctly, Tyler, since I'm a runner and a biker and I know that intersection well, just so you guys are kind of on the same page with us, if you're coming towards Abingdon from that crossing, there's a big lengthy sort of pause there where oftentimes bikers get up to full speed right before they hit the road, and it's very dangerous. So that's what Tyler's alluding to, is he's trying to fix that to where there's more of a barrier and it prevents people from drag racing towards the road, so that there's not some sort of an accident. And I admit, if you don't hear well, it's very dangerous there.
And I can share that with you. I had to draw up a sketch for VDOT in the application, so if you'd like to see that, I can send it.
Why don't you just send it to me, Tyler, in a PDF,
Okay.
and I'll just forward it to the
Okay.
council.
But thank you for the
Yeah.
hard work on that, because that is very dangerous, and we appreciate you trying to make it safer.
No
for us.
problem.
Yeah. All that being said, council, at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to approve the plat for proposed right-of-way dedication.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Owens, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Billion?
Aye.
Ms. Sledge?
Aye.
Mayor Webb?
Aye. Thank you, Tyler.
Good job, Tyler.
Thank you.
Nice work. That brings us to a completely different topic. Number 3 is the approval of a lease between the town of Abingdon and David Millsap, doing business as Millsap Farms, for property located at Harmony Hills Lane, tax map number 086125, consisting of 24.185 acres, more or less.
Yes, this is just a renewal of an agreement. The base lease was approved in 2019. It's just for maintenance of the property that we own. Harmony Hills is technically the roadway. It's well, it's actually, the GIS says it is Harmony Hills subdivision, that's what it was. So anyways, just Mr. Millsap is here, but I don't think he needs to speak. We're recommending we just approve it, do it on an annual basis, just so the field can be maintained and we don't have to do it. So, if anybody has any questions.
We've had this discussion a couple years in a
Before,
row, haven't we, huh?
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming again. Council.
And I knew he was gonna wear overalls.
I know, right?
I knew it.
That's
That's
it.
all he's got. Yeah.
That's it, that's it.
Or a Sunday best.
Well, council, do we have any questions about that agreement? Okay. Hearing none, I would certainly entertain a motion to go ahead and approve that agreement as we have done the past couple of years.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Vice Mayor Quetch to approve the lease between the town of Abingdon and Mr. David Millsap. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Ms. Billion?
Aye.
Ms. Sledge?
Aye.
And Mayor Webb?
Aye. Thank you, David. Appreciate you. All right, that brings us to miscellaneous business and communications from the town manager. First up is an economic development and tourism update, Miss Tanya Triplett and the gang. With just Tennille, I think. Welcome.
We come as a pair.
Yes, we do. TNT.
Yes.
Hope you guys are doing okay this evening. Just kind of want to give you a little bit of an update of what we've been into and some of the things, very exciting things. We had a TAC meeting earlier today, so we have a lot going on. So we just want to share a little bit of that with you all. We did host one of our first bus tours in Abingdon a couple of weeks ago. They visited the Cultural Center for a little bit of shopping. Donna Marie Emmert took them on a historic driving tour downtown, and then they ate at some of our restaurants. So we were pretty stoked about that and glad that that business is kind of picking up a little bit. I had a meeting also last month with the Department of Housing and Community Development, and we looked at the downtown development plan that the town of Abingdon was issued in 2014. And we haven't done anything with that plan yet. So we have some buildings who have changed ownership and some plans that have changed that may put some pieces of the puzzle together that would make us eligible for some of that downtown revitalization fund. So we'll continue to talk with them about that. We did get another $200,000 for the meals program, so we're pretty excited about that. We are going to be allowed to let some of the restaurants who opened during COVID to participate. So we ran an ad, it was in the paper today, soliciting applications for that, so that is exciting. There were 1,700 meals taken to Faith in Action for the month of August, and that translated to $20,400 to local restaurants. So that was pretty exciting. We began to host some travel writers. So in August, we hosted a lady who was a CNN reporter from Atlanta. And thanks to the Martha Washington Hotel and Spa, Luke's Cafe, and the Virginia Creeper Trail Bike Shop, who were all partners in helping us to provide bike shuttle service, meals, and lodging for this lady. So she did a lot of Instagramming while she was here, and we're excited to see maybe what comes out of that. We have been working with Hampton Inn, who hopes to be open very soon, so we'll have 87 new rooms. But one of the projects that we've been working with them on is they are interested in placing a mural with some love letters by the hotel, and they have purchased that whole strip mall there where ABC Supply is, so they have one wall that is just concrete. So there's some funds through the Virginia Tourism Corporation available if they decide they want to move that project forward. So we're pretty excited about that. I applied for a grant through the Virginia Outdoors Foundation for the skills and pump track, so we'll see where that goes. We've also contracted with a firm to provide us with some preliminary designs for that, so we can kind of see what we can get, and then we'll be hosting some community input sessions once we get those plans. So look out for that. Tennille and I met with Emory and Henry College, so they have a workforce development department, and we found out that enrollment at Emory and Henry College is up 63%, and 47% of those are from out of town.
Wow.
So when we met with them, we said, is there a way that we could partner to help those students learn about jobs in Abingdon, if they're looking for part-time jobs, and connect them with some of our small businesses who may need employees. So we came up with a good solution, and Tennille created a Google Docs, and we sent that out last week. So we do have businesses adding their information. So once we compile that, we will put it in a form that we can send to Emory, and they can share that with their students. So we're hopeful that that's going to be helpful for both the students and for our small businesses. We hosted the townwide yard sale in August, and I just happened to interview several people that were at my yard sale, so I wanted to share with you that we saw visitors from Pikeville, Kentucky, Morristown, Tennessee, Butler, Tennessee, Johnson City, Kingsport, Mountain City, Tennessee, Asheville, North Carolina, Marion, Glade Spring, and Saltville. So those are the folks that I had time to ask, where did you come from? So it was a pretty successful day, I think, for everyone.
And I will say the Food City in Pikeville is very impressive. Not as impressive as the Abingdon one.
Oh,
But I have
okay.
been in the Pikeville.
Okay.
It is nice. It is relatively new.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
I just hope they had a chance to experience our food.
They might have, they're a church group.
Oh,
And
there
they
was a
come-
church group?
They come every year, yeah.
Oh.
They come every year for the yard sale, and they yard sale in the morning, and then they have lunch at a restaurant. So,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it is.
Oh, that's right. That was the bus then. That was that. Didn't they come down in a bus?
Yeah.
Okay.
They did. They did. We are also working on a Christmas light driving tour, so much like the yard sale, if you all saw online, we did an interactive map that would take you to each yard sale. So that worked fairly well, and last year we started talking about it, and we thought, wow, if we had a little driving tour, no matter what COVID or anything else does, that could be an activity that could bring people to town to drive around and look at the Christmas lights. So we will be putting all of that together very soon and sending out permits for folks to sign up for that if they're interested. Tennille did a phenomenal job putting together a co-op for the Virginia Travel Guide. So that is the magazine that the Virginia Tourism Corporation sends out if they get requests for information about Virginia. It's a year-long magazine, so they print that every year. We were able to put back $7,900 to purchase a half-page ad. With the co-op, we had 15 businesses who joined in with us, and they each paid $400.72, and we are now getting a full-page ad in that magazine. So that was pretty exciting. Good
And
job,
that's-
Tennille.
That's the ad that you guys have on your thing.
We also partnered with Blue Ridge Outdoor. Tennille did all of the work on that as well. So we're, part of our marketing for that will be a giveaway. So we partnered with the town of Damascus, who will be offering 2 nights stay. We'll be offering 2 nights stay in Abingdon. There'll be some meals and some activities. So they'll be running that on their website and in their magazine as a giveaway. We did get $10,000 from the Virginia Tourism Corporation Marketing Leverage Grant. We also, Abingdon Main Street, the Virginia Creeper Trail, Barter Theater, and the Martha Washington Inn all applied for that grant this year, and each one of those received $10,000 as well. So it'll be $50,000 altogether for the town of Abingdon, which is awesome. I met with Mount Rogers Planning District today, and the U.S. Economic Development Authority has some funds available for tourism, and Mount Rogers Planning District is going to apply for up to $10 million for projects to build out outdoor recreation assets. So I plan to add our Skills and Pump Track to that list. So we'll see how that pans out. We did work on the marketing plan.
Next slide, Coggin.
Thank you, John. And here, we just listed out a few of the things, many of which I've already talked about, but we've updated the shopping and dining map, which you have at your spots as well. And we did a new brochure for Sinking Springs Cemetery, and that is also at your desk. We have placed an ad in the Roanoke Times that targets active retirees who would be able to travel maybe during the week, because that's kind of a lull time for us. So we're hoping that all of that does very well. We also contracted with Lori Rowe Communications. That was a firm out of Florida that the previous tourism staff had done some business with, and we were not able to be on the same level as before, but we did come to some terms to get some of the benefits that they have to offer. We've continued to do website updates, trying to keep everybody's information current and up to date, and in all of our print ads and everything else. We're just driving people to that website. We talked about all of this. We did talk about our state, Smoky Mountain Living, some of the print ads. We're not going to do as often, but we're going to move to the front and do larger ads. So instead of doing 1/6 of a page in the back of our state for 12 months, we're going to the front of the magazine with a full-page ad. We may only be in it for 2 months, but we're going to pick the 2 months that we feel like it would be best suited. So we feel like that we would just get a little more coverage than being kind of in the back of the magazine. So I'm going to turn it over now and let Tennille talk to you a little bit about the social media. And
All right, next slide, Coggin. Well, actually, this is some highlights of the PR campaign that we have with Lori Rowe, who keeps us informed of all the articles that we're featured in. So these are just some of the top articles that we've been featured in from May to August. And of course, some high notes are a Martha Stewart Living feature that was of the Barter. And they talked about how they transformed the Moonlight into an outdoor theater through COVID. And another big highlight is a Red Book we were featured in, which is a pretty big magazine. And the Discoverer is actually an e-newsletter that I get in my email, and I saw it and emailed the lady a while back, and then they have started contacting us, and then we've been featured in some of their e-newsletters that have come out. So that was actually really cool to get the e-newsletter and then see us in it. So these
So that
are,
was organic then? That was...
yeah, that was actually something that I reached out to them and said, hey, have you heard of Abingdon? Here's what, we want to talk to you.
It wasn't something that we got through Lori, but
No,
this
this
was
was
one that we generated.
on my,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So, next slide. These are just a few of the articles that were, of course, in the Bristol Herald Courier and then WJHL and WCYB. They've done some really cool things for us. One of the things down here in the corner, WJHL actually did a destination vacation, and they came to us in June, wasn't it? Yes, in June. And they did some filming all day, and they, of course, shared about the Creeper Trail and the Girl and the Raven, and went to the Barter and did a little interview with Katie. So that was a nice little thing, a local push for the Johnson City, Kingsport, Bristol area as far as a destination vacation, like a one-day vacation or a weekend vacation type deal. So these are just a couple of those. Of course, the updates on the sports complex get a lot of coverage, and a lot of the new businesses that are in town are still getting good coverage. So next slide. Okay, these are kind of our social media stats from May to August. The Facebook, of course, is still doing well. Twitter is growing. Instagram is growing. I'm trying to just really share a lot of things that the businesses post and the Creeper Trail. The most shares and likes and things that I get are Creeper Trail photos. Everybody loves a good fall photo or a good winter photo on the Creeper Trail. So, of course, the Creeper Trail page is growing. We get tons of messages on the Creeper Trail page about when is the best time to come ride the Creeper Trail, when is the best time to see fall foliage, those types of things. So we're dealing with those questions right now as we go into the fall. Our email marketing, of course, with Constant Contact. In May, we did a push with Savor the Goodness, so we featured a lot of the restaurants. In July, we did a push, downtown or out of town, find your space in Abingdon. And then, of course, in August, we pushed to vote for us because we were up for Blue Ridge Outdoors Top Adventure Town. So that contest is closed. So hopefully we'll find out soon whether we won. We were up against Marion and Gatlinburg and a few others. So fingers crossed that we win that one. So next slide. And these are just some of the website statistics. We've had about over 70,000 visitors to the website from May to August. You can kind of see we're still getting good new visitors to the website. They have, of course, increased since 2020. We kind of need to go back, I guess, and kind of compare those now to really 2019 because, of course, everything.
well, you're right, 2019.
Right,
my bad.
pre-pandemic.
Fiscal year,
Yes.
2019, 2020.
We've had lots of visitor requests, lots of visitor guide requests for our outdoor guides. Of course, the top searches are still outdoor recreation, lodging, the creeper trail, and actually a new one that popped up this time was events. So we think people are looking for events, especially outdoor events, coming up for the fall. So we're going to be working on getting those all updated on the website and make sure we have everything shared for that. Of course, we're back more female visitors than male, and of course, we have a good demographic up and down as far as age groups go. So next slide. And then this is just some of the things, Tanya actually went over a couple of those. You can talk about the enterprise zones, because I think you have a new update on that.
We received an email today from Mr. Berry, who stated that they are certainly working toward that. They produced a map for us today that gave us 580 acres, I believe, of enterprise zones, so we're pretty excited about that. That's been a long process, and we are grateful for all the time and energy that the county's put into that, and they're moving forward with it. We received a great compliance review from DHCD on the Mills grant, so we were excited to get through that and be able to provide them with all of the paperwork that they needed. We have ALDA, which is the American Long Distance Hikers Association, visiting in October. They'll be out at the Higher Ed Center. They'll be camping there. We've worked out an opportunity for them to use the Coon Center for some showering. And we have Silver in the Streets coming back in 2022, so that was the Airstream Campers on Remsburg. They came in May. They, in August, visited the Cultural Center. So they spent several days in the parking lot at the Cultural Center, and they love Abingdon, so they've already decided that they're going to be coming back to Remsburg at 2022. Barnwood Builders, of course, was here. I hope you all were able to watch that last week. That was pretty exciting, featured some nice artisans in our area, and really did a great job for Fairview. So we're excited about that. All right, we talked about all of that, I think. Fields Pen is coming along. We've received some pictures today. They're working on the hardwood floors. So that is exciting for us to have a new home. We did partner with OVTA to open the muster grounds. So they have volunteers there from 10 to 5 on Saturdays and 1 to 5 on Sundays. They're also going to be hosting some Boy Scout groups for camping there, and then they were not able to do call to arms this year because there just wasn't, the school field trips were not able to make it. So they decided that the Overmountain men will come to the muster grounds, and they're going to camp, and then they'll start their march to Kings Mountain, and that'll be September the 23rd. We have on Friday, the UVA Political Leadership Program is going to be at the Cultural Center for some training, and we'll have them in downtown Abingdon from 1 to 3 to talk about economic development and some of the things that are going on downtown. Amanda will have some things, I think, to share later on, so I'll let her do that.
Wahoo wah.
Do what?
I said wahoo wah.
Washington County Fair is next Monday, the 13th through the 18th. We have the Yeti Race, the 100-mile Yeti Race, September the 24th and 25th. I think they're going to have their registration at Wolf Hills Brewery. And I'm understanding that there have about 304 participants right now.
And they're gonna have the finish line there at this time too.
Nice.
We'll get you some more bags.
We will get you some bags. We'll do that. October the 5th, there's an ARC conference planned at the Cultural Center. And December, I'm sorry, that's Miss Pillion's. Okay, so I think that's kind of all we have. Any questions?
Quick question back to the enterprise zones, and this may be, I know it's very premature to ask this question possibly, but, and you may not be able to answer it either, but how much of Main Street is going to be involved in that acreage?
There's a good portion. There's a good portion from 14 comes, it has to connect. So there's areas that buildings that are not eligible. So for instance, any state-owned buildings, churches would not be eligible for enterprise zone money. So we have hatched out all of the buildings that are not eligible.
So do they still be do they count the acreage?
No, we took
So they-
those out.
Okay.
And then you'll see the lines, when we show you the map, you'll be able to see the lines. So at 14, there's a portion of that property at exit 14 that's R3, so it's residential, but some of it's commercial. So we took actually the plots of land that were commercial, that would be eligible, and we put that in. And then we brought it down the street, we brought it to Main Street, we went over and picked up the property on Russell Road where the tobacco warehouses used to be. And then we came all the way down, Main Street, and we went to 17, parts of 17, all the way to 19.
Very good.
Yep.
I have a question, Tanya. Can you maybe provide some information regarding the hotels and what their performances are, at least what you've heard? I know we've had a lot of hotels that are been full. Just give, and I get that email you send me every month with the percentages, and I kind of compare them to other regions, and I guess comparatively, how are we doing compared to
We're
other
doing
regions?
better than most. And
Okay.
I would say that the reason for that is a lot of the tourists. Northern Virginia is not performing as well as
Yeah,
that.
I
and
saw the
think it's
Northern Virginia
business
numbers were
travel.
low, and it was because they have a lot of the work, I think the travel has been reduced,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of that in that area that's going on, and we don't really
Yeah, and
have
we
as much of that.
still have some business here.
We don't rely as heavily on it as
But
they
we
do.
don't rely as heavily as, the tourism dollars are making up, I think, for some of that. But everybody seems to be doing really well, and like I said, we have 87 new rooms coming on board.
Well, I think Samir told you he was having.
20-year record highs, is what we heard from one hotelier.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Impressive. Well, clearly you two have been busy.
Busy, we've been a little busy. We have been.
I don't know how you time to take a day off. I don't understand how you had time.
So thank you for all your work.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank
I
you
think a
all for
lot
your
of people
support.
have been very concerned. I have had a lot of people come to me being concerned about the state of tourism in Abingdon, and I think you guys are knocking it out of the park. I think you're doing a great job with a very limited budget and mostly just the two of you. I think you're doing a fabulous job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That brings, Jimmy, did you have anything else you
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
discuss?
One thing I did want to say that the next meeting, the work session, I think it's the 23rd, Kim, if it's September 23rd, it's Thursday. We are going to continue a discussion on the outdoor recreation area that we had discussed a couple times at previous meetings, and we're going to get a little bit more in depth before we take it to the next level and make sure the chief has developed or finalized the safety plan. We want to share that with the council, discuss that, and we'll have at least one of the restaurants who is a proponent of it come. We wanted to get them in front of the council so we could ask additional questions if we need to. So I wanted to just state that that'll be on the agenda for the 23rd. The other thing I guess I wanted to state was I wanted to clear up maybe any confusion. This is really mostly for the general public. I think the council has a firm understanding of what we're trying to do with the wastewater operations. It's the difference between privatization versus contract operations. I know sometimes privatization gets a negative connotation when you're talking about the public sector. For instance, like when a municipality were to privatize their water, which we don't have, but they will sell the assets and they will sell the entire operation and assets along with it. And that's obviously not what we're doing. We're just looking at contracting out the operations and management of the division, which we still maintain control of everything. We still own the assets. But the other thing that I wanted to point out was I believe Woodard and Kern, their model, their preferred model, is a lot different than a lot of the other firms in the industry. And I know that the term like 15% was thrown around. They're doing 8%, and it's an open book cost plus, which means if, you know, if they cut costs, their profits actually go down. So, but ultimately, because it's a percentage of what our total budget is. So if they lay a bunch of people off, they actually lose money. So there's no incentive for them to run the operations into the ground. It will be run efficiently, and the town will still maintain control of it. If the town feels that it's not being run properly, there's an early termination, or a termination for convenience provision that'll be in the contract. So I just wanted to, just for the public's sake, is just try to clarify some of that, and that's all. So I don't think I have anything else I wanted to talk about. So good job, Tanya and Danielle. So.
All right, so Cam, I probably need to get your perspective on this, but we've got 3 closed sessions.
Did you want to do
council member reports?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that would probably be the next step.
Yes, sir.
Do we have council member reports? Anybody?
Well, I just wanted to, along the lines of tourism, I wanted to let the town know that the Senate Finance Committee of the state of Virginia is having its meeting in Abingdon on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of next week. So we will be welcoming, if I want to understand, 40 to 50 members of the Virginia Senate, members of the administration, staff, lobbyists, that sort of thing, spouses and guests. So they're going to be staying at the Martha Washington. It's a great chance to show off our town to people who are from all over the state who may not often visit. So we're going to hopefully have some bags ready for them in their rooms to show them all the things Abingdon has to offer. And if they don't have time to do everything this time, then hopefully we'll get them to come back. And then along those same lines, the Virginia Commission for the Arts meets 4 times a year in various localities around the state. And they meet in localities where they, provide grants to fund the arts. And so they're going to be having their December meeting in Abingdon. So that will probably be somewhere between, I would say, 20 to 25 people, depending on how many people bring guests. But it's another chance for us to really show off Abingdon, get people here to see what we're doing as far as the arts community goes. All the other meetings I've been to have been, I think the closest one has been Strasburg. So Strasburg, Richmond, Williamsburg, Suffolk. So this is a big change, and I'm really excited to nudge them down this direction. So keep your eye out for all those people who are going to be visiting.
And the ARC.
Well, then the ARC is going to be here, and the governor will be here as part of that situation.
That's October 6th, is it?
That's the first weekend in October, right?
It was, because it was going to conflict, I think, with the meeting, or no, the VML conference.
The VML
that's what it was.
conference.
But we are not going, so, okay.
So yeah, lots of people from all over the state.
Other people's money's being spent in Abingdon, that's great.
And then hopefully they'll love it so much that they'll
Right.
put it on their list of places they want to visit often.
That's great.
That's it.
That's the name of the game.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for that update. That's great. That's great.
It is great.
Anybody else have a council member report they'd like to make? I would like to say just one thing. I received a phone call as well as a letter in the mail about the Coombs Center pool hours. So just to put it on the record, so that everybody who's watching and hears this understands, it has nothing to do with money. It is purely because we don't have enough lifeguards, and there are no lifeguards to be found right
Yeah,
now.
that's true, Mayor. I've received the same, actually received it today. Did you
Yeah.
get yours today?
Well, I got my, it didn't have a way for me to contact the
Yeah.
person back to
It
tell them.
it was
personally. It was
and I did
anonymous
speak with one
letter.
patron who was concerned about that.
Sure.
And I reiterated to them,
Yep.
and I don't know if this was the same person, we had a lifeguard class, I think I put it in my report, we had about 7 or 8 that took it. We actually had our office manager actually got certified. It's, as you know, it's bad to be in Louisville to hire people when school started. We lost a couple lifeguards. We are trying to keep the pool open as much as we can, we just don't have the staff to do it.
But,
so.
just for
Yeah.
people who don't know how that process works,
Yeah.
you have to give lifeguards a certain amount of time off within their shifts and.
And especially if they're
Yeah,
underage,
and
there's only so
rotate
many
them
hours they
through.
can work,
So,
yeah.
so it's a very complex sort of
Yeah.
system, and we just truly just don't have enough people to keep it staffed for any.
And it's
longer.
tough when they can work other jobs for a lot more at
Sure.
other, which they can't even hire people too.
Sure.
So maybe that issue will resolve itself in a
But we
couple-
are actively working on fixing that issue, just for
Yeah.
the public, so that they know that.
Correct.
Having said all that, any other council member reports or? Okay, so Cam, back to what we were talking about a moment ago, we've got
Yes.
3 different closed sessions. Can we take those all up at one time
yes,
and
sir.
just shift people through? Do we have a formal, I don't think we have a formal piece to read. Having said that, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session for all 3 of these reasons. The
I think
first.
I think you can just read what's on the agenda. I think
What's on the
that'll
agenda?
suffice.
Okay, so number 1, number 2, as well as the appointments to boards and committees, if someone would like to read those 3 little sections.
I'll make that motion that we go into closed session permitted by Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711A3, a matter involving disposition of publicly held property because discussion in open meeting would adversely affect our bargaining position. And number 2 is closed session permitted by Section 2.2-3711A29 concerning terms of or scope of an agreement with wastewater contract operations becoming public discussion would adversely affect our bargaining position or negotiating strategy. And 3 would be the appointments to boards of committees. Do I need to read each one of these?
Just that little bottom.
If council so desires, closed session pursuant to Code of Virginia 1950 as amended, Section 2.2-3711A1, for the purpose of considering applications for appointment for position on Board of Zoning Appeals, Historic Preservation Review Board, Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee, and Recreation Advisory Committee.
All right. So we've got a motion to go into closed session for all 3 of those reasons. Do I have, that's by Mr. Owens, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion. Council, any discussion? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson? Ms. Hilliard?
Aye.
Ms. Fletch?
Aye.
Mayor Webb?
Aye. Closed session, here we come.
It's in
I
that
don't
stack.
think it's in
Normally we
this,
have it just sitting here.
Why do I like to hurt people's feelings? I like to tell people, you told me, you said
She's
hurt
got it.
about freedom, and that's what you mean, I represent freedom.
Just read that.
We have to come into open session first.
So motion to reconvene first.
I'll make a motion that we reconvene.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Owens to come back into open session.
I'll
Do I have a
second
second? Second by Vice Mayor Quetch. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Billion.
Aye.
Ms. Sweat.
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. And then the certification?
I'm certified.
I move that the town council certify
Certified
that.
what?
Pardon?
Thought
I
it was
move
Kevin.
that the town council certify that in closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except for the matter or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session, and two, lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act in that motion.
Mr. Owens, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Anderson.
I so certify.
Ms. Billion.
I so certify.
Ms. Sweat.
I so certify.
And Mayor Webb.
I so certify. All right, after that lengthy group of closed session discussions, I think we are going to table some of the appointments to boards and committees. But we do have one, the Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee, that we need to fill a vacancy, and we have a taker. So I would entertain or open the floor for nominations for that position.
I make a motion that we nominate Rick Morgan to the Sinking Springs Cemetery.
All right, got a motion to nominate Mr. Richard Morgan to the Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee by Mr. Owens. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Billion.
Aye.
Ms. Sweat.
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. So with tabling those other appointments, I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. So unless I've forgotten something, we are officially adjourned.